Welcome to part one of my Chia adventures, where I'll be putting together a brand new Chia optimized computer build. Let's get right into it. So I went with this Thermaltake View 31. Holds 6 hard drives and has plenty of room, plenty of airflow, and it looks really nice. And a bonus is it comes with fans pre-installed, 3 of them total, power supply right there. I did the math and went with a 600 watt. I chose bronze. Since I went with the Threadripper processor, I needed a Threadripper motherboard. You just want to make sure it's nice and tight, but not so tight that you crack the board, obviously. The 1920X, this has 12 cores and 24 threads. Just slides right into this here slot. And down it goes. Clicking the blue clips and then closing the spring door with a screwdriver ready to go. And there we go. So it's nice and tight. So you can go with an air cool setup with a big old heat sink that has multiple fans to keep this cool, but I went with an all-in-one liquid cooler. Here's a Corsair one. Most all-in-ones come with thermal paste already on it from the factory, so make sure you keep that clean until you put it onto the processor. Here's the radiator, and there are the power connections. So, here we go. This is going to be the adapter to convert those holes to work with my motherboard. The original brackets just pull right off of the side, like that, and click in the new ones. The cooler came with these little black adapter pegs that you need to install. Next comes these cool threaded caps that tighten it down. So do one corner at a time, alternating corners to try and get it as even as possible. Now I'm placing the 2 fans on there. Now that the fans are on the cooler, I'm going to have to mount it to the top side of the case here. Now the cooler is officially mounted. A couple screws up there, put the dust shield back on, and we're just left with all these electrical connections hanging around, which we will deal with shortly. I went with 4 sticks, 8 gigabytes each, to get 32 gigabytes total. Here's your RAM slots. And you'll notice there's actually a set of 4 on each side. This is a quad channel board. Alright, all 4 sticks of RAM are in the first slot of each channel. B1, A1, C1, and D1. So that's it. Next up, graphics card. You don't actually need an independent graphics card to do any Chia mining or farming. But this processor motherboard combo doesn't actually have dedicated graphics. So I'm going with a GTX 1060 for now. Right in that first PCI Express slot. Now that we've got the case with a power supply, a processor, the cooler, the graphics card, and the RAM, we're going to need a storage drive to store all of our everyday files on. So I went with this M.2 NVMe drive here. A 1 terabyte's more than enough for my everyday use. And make sure that screw hole lines up and screw it down. So as you may know, the plotting and farming process for Chia is pretty unique and interesting. You use a temporary drive to actually run the plotting process, and then all of the plotting files are actually compressed and transferred over to a long-term storage drive. So this is going to be my initial setup, where I'm using this 2 terabyte NVMe drive to do the temp files, and then they will be compiled, compressed, and sent over to the storage drives. And you're going to want as many terabytes as possible of storage to just keep on filling up with plots. Now, of course, you can only read and write so many times on these temporary drives before they burn out, so that's something to be aware of. I am fully anticipating burning this thing out in, I don't know, 2 months, hopefully last longer than that. It might even last only 1 month. I'm not 100% on that yet. Another thing to point out is, you know, the efficiency of your temporary storage drive is pretty important, but not so important to have super high efficient storage drives. You really just need to hold the plots on these drives. They're not going to be doing a ton of reading and writing. These are the ones that are going to do a lot of read and write, so you really want fast read and write speeds on your drives. So that's why I went with these M.2s, even though they're so nice and it makes me feel bad to burn them out. Hopefully I'm going to get a lot of plots out of just one of these. Another thing to point out is I went with a single one of 2 terabytes. I could have done 2 that are 1 terabyte each, since I have 3 slots on there. That's my first NVMe drive, and then as you see, 2 other slots right there. I could have split it up. In theory, that would be more efficient. Something else I could do is just get yet another 2 terabyte, and then I'll actually have 4 terabytes of plotting capacity, so for those temporary drives. So anyway, this will be a great starter for me, and I'll see kind of where to go after that. And as you see, I have 4 externals and then 4 internals. Altogether, this is about 70 terabytes of storage capacity, and this is 2 terabytes of temporary capacity, which keeps getting filled and wiped and filled and wiped and filled and wiped. These ones just get filled one time, and then you never touch them again, basically. So, all right, I'm going to get this plotting drive installed in the other slot, and then we'll get to the next steps. I'm not going to instantly connect all 8 of these drives right away because I just can't fill them up that quickly, obviously. So I'm just going to start with one of these internals and one of the externals for now, and I'll just keep adding more as I go. But right now I'm going to be putting this hard drive into the cage, sliding that cage in, and then I'll be able to hook it up. So next up is connecting all of the power where it all goes. So there's the motherboard power connection, which goes right back there. And we've got all these fan connectors. The internal drive has a power connector, the graphics card, and all of that good stuff. So let me get all of these wires hooked up where they go, and I will see you in a minute. Okay, I have officially connected all of the electrical connectors to the different ports all around the motherboard, and that is really all it takes to put the build together. So now I'm gonna plug this thing in and see if I can get some power out of it. As a basic test, I got this thing plugged in and powered on. All the fans and lights are operating properly. So the next thing will be to install Windows on this new NVMe drive, and then I'll be able to continue my Chia adventures. So thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.